You are not invisible. God has always had his eyes on you. Every morning, before the sun rises, his presence draws close. He waits to see if your heart will turn to him first. He gently calls, "Come be with me before anything else. Let me calm your mind and guide your steps. Let me walk with you before the world pulls at your attention." His invitation is always full of peace and love. When you pray first, you're choosing to begin your day with the one who knows everything ahead. Before the stress, before the noise, before the demands, you stop and sit with God. You open your heart to the one who can give you wisdom, strength, and peace. You say, "God, I can't do today without you." So many people jump straight into their day, rushing to meet deadlines, check their phones, or solve problems. But you've chosen something better. You've stopped to seek the one who holds time in his hands. You've chosen to be led, not driven. When you pray before anything else, you're saying, "God, you go first." You're giving him permission to lead your thoughts, your choices, your reactions. You're building your day on the strongest foundation possible. You're beginning in the presence of peace. Matthew 6:33 says, "But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you." That verse isn't just a promise, it's a way of life. When you put God first, everything else comes into place. When he is your starting point, he becomes your covering too. God doesn't want to be your last option. He wants to be your first move. He wants you to speak to him before the world speaks to you. He wants your eyes on him before they're on anything else. That's how you find real direction. Your strength for the day doesn't come from caffeine or motivation, it comes from communion. When you talk to God, you're not just asking for help, you're receiving peace. You're receiving focus, healing, and power. That quiet moment becomes your greatest weapon. There is a kind of peace that only God gives. It stays with you when stress tries to rise. It covers your thoughts when fear comes close. It reminds you that you are never facing the day alone. God is ready to walk with you. He wants to be in every part of your day, not just the hard moments, but the small ones too. He cares about your schedule, your mood, your decisions. Nothing is too small to pray about. This is where your day truly begins. Not when the alarm goes off, but when you kneel, breathe, and invite God in. This is how the strong rise with grace. This is how battles are won before they even begin. This is how the atmosphere shifts in your home, your heart, and your mind. Praying first doesn't mean you'll avoid all trouble, but it does mean you won't face it alone. God goes before you. Angels are sent ahead, and his peace becomes your shield. When you choose to begin with God, you're not hoping the day goes well. You're already walking in his blessing. Sometimes we treat prayer like a last resort. We only turn to God when everything else falls apart. But what if prayer became your first response, not your final option? What if you met with God before the problems showed up? That's the power of starting your day in his presence. It's not about having perfect words. It's about giving God your attention before the world demands it. It's about placing him at the center before anything tries to pull you away. Jesus himself made time to pray early in the morning. Mark 1:35 says, "Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went to a quiet place to pray." Even the Son of God needed to be alone with the Father. That's how important prayer is. Jesus didn't begin his day with people or problems. He began it in stillness. He chose solitude so he could hear clearly. Before any miracles, before any teaching, he connected with God. That's where his power came from. If Jesus, who was perfect, needed to pray, then we certainly do. He showed us that strength begins in surrender, that guidance begins in quiet, that love grows in the secret place. You might feel like your schedule is too full, or your mornings are too rushed. But even 5 honest minutes with God can change your direction. You don't need to pray for hours, you just need to be real. God can do more with your sincerity than your schedule. Those early moments of prayer are sacred. They're not just routine, they are life-giving. They help you reset, refocus, and remember who walks with you. They remind you that you are not doing life on your own. When you meet with God first, you carry peace into places that usually bring pressure. You bring kindness into rooms that might test your patience. You carry light into dark spaces. You become a reflection of His presence. Prayer isn't about fixing everything. It's about aligning with the One who can. It's about releasing control and receiving grace. It's about remembering that your identity is not based on performance, but presence. You belong to Him, no matter what today brings. And in that quiet space, God whispers things no one else can say. He tells you, "You are mine. You are safe. You are seen." His words become your strength when the day grows heavy. So tomorrow, when the alarm goes off, don't just reach for your phone. Reach for your Father. Begin with Him. And let everything else fall into place after that. Because when you pray first, you're not just preparing for the day, you're inviting heaven to go before you. You may not always feel ready for what the day brings. Sometimes, the weight of what you carry feels too heavy before you even leave the house. But when you begin in prayer, something changes inside of you. You don't walk out with fear. You walk out with peace. Prayer shifts the atmosphere of your mind. It settles your racing thoughts. It pulls you out of stress and into stillness. It reminds you that you don't need to have all the answers, because you serve the One who does. In Psalm 143:8, David cries out, "Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you. Show me the way I should go, for to you I entrust my life." Even David, a mighty king and warrior, began his day needing direction and love from God. And that's what God gives, both guidance and comfort. The mornings are holy ground. That quiet space before the world speaks is where your soul hears God the clearest. You can bring your worries, your dreams, your questions. He listens to every one of them. Sometimes all it takes is one whispered prayer to change your mood. Just one moment of surrender can remove a burden you've carried too long. You don't need to know what to say. You just need to show up and speak from your heart. When you pray first, you're not reacting to life. You're preparing for it. You're stepping into your day already filled with grace. You're not rushing to catch up. You're walking in rhythm with God, and that rhythm carries you through the hard moments. God doesn't expect perfection from you. He just wants your presence. He doesn't need fancy words, just honest ones. He isn't waiting to scold you. He's waiting to love you. If you've ever wondered where peace comes from, it starts here, in these early, quiet prayers. Peace isn't found in perfect circumstances. It's found in trusting the One who holds every circumstance in His hands. That's why we begin with Him. When you open your mouth in prayer, you are inviting heaven to move. Angels begin to surround you. Strength begins to fill you. Clarity begins to rise inside of you. You don't need to force anything. Just rest in Him. You don't need to fix everything. Just listen for His voice. And once you've heard it, once you've met with Him, you'll walk out into the world with a calm spirit, a steady mind, and a heart ready for anything. Because prayer doesn't just change your day, it changes you. Sometimes the battles we face aren't visible. They're not always loud or obvious. Some days, the real struggle is happening deep inside in your thoughts, in your emotions, in the quiet places no one else sees. And that's exactly why we need to pray first. Prayer isn't just for emergencies, it's for protection. It's like spiritual armor that covers you before anything even touches you. When you pray before the battle, you walk in prepared. You're no longer caught off guard. You're already covered. Ephesians 6:11 says, "Put on the full armor of God, so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes." That armor begins with prayer. It's where you receive peace for anxiety, courage for fear, and truth for the lies the enemy will try to plant. When you pray first, you aren't just surviving, you're standing strong. You're reminding the enemy that you don't fight alone. You're reminding your soul that your help doesn't come from your own strength. It comes from the Lord. And when you skip prayer, you feel it. The day feels heavier. The words of others cut deeper. Your heart becomes more sensitive to things that were never meant to define you. Without prayer, it's easier to lose focus and fall into discouragement. But with prayer, everything shifts. Even if the problem stays the same, your heart becomes stronger. Your mind becomes clearer. You begin to respond with grace, instead of reacting with fear. Some days, God won't remove the storm, but He'll strengthen you to walk through it. He'll give you peace that makes no sense in the middle of chaos. He'll whisper, "I'm with you," and that alone will be enough. Prayer reminds you that you are never alone in your struggle. There's power in being prepared, and prayer is how you prepare. It's how you speak life before negativity shows up. It's how you protect your heart before the world tries to pull it apart. Before you enter the conversation, pray. Before you reply to the message, pray. Before you walk into the room, pray. That simple habit will guard you from harm and guide you into wisdom. Prayer is not weakness, it's your greatest strength. It's not something extra, it's essential. It's not for just the deeply spiritual, it's for everyone who wants to walk with peace. It's the most powerful way to stay grounded when life shakes. So before the day starts, before the noise rises, before your emotions take over, pray. Give God the first word, and you'll see how different everything feels. Let Him speak to your heart, and suddenly the day will not feel so heavy. Because when you pray first, your soul remembers who you are and whose you are. There's something powerful about giving God your mornings. It's not about routine, it's about relationship. When you open your eyes and turn your heart toward Him first, something begins to shift inside you. You begin to walk through the day with purpose, not pressure. Starting with prayer keeps your heart tender. It softens the places that are tired, afraid, or guarded. It allows God to gently speak into the spaces you usually keep quiet. It creates room for healing before the world has a chance to hurt you again. Psalm 5:3 says, "In the morning, Lord, you hear my voice. In the morning I lay my requests before you and wait expectantly." This was David's rhythm, not praying because he had to, but because he trusted God to listen. He poured out his thoughts to the Lord and waited with hope. You don't need to clean yourself up before you pray. You don't need the right words. God wants your real heart, your real thoughts, your honest emotions. And when you bring Him what you have, He fills you with what you need. Prayer isn't a duty, it's a doorway. It opens your spirit to divine peace. It helps you rise above the noise. It brings heaven close. So when the day feels too big and your heart feels too small, pray. When you're not sure what to do next, pray. When things are going well and you want to stay grounded in gratitude, pray. Prayer is always the right first move. It doesn't matter if you're sitting at the kitchen table, driving in your car, or walking into work. That small prayer, even a whisper, changes the atmosphere. You don't have to shout for God to hear. He listens to the quiet voice that truly believes. There's something sacred in saying, "God, I trust you with this day." You're giving up control in the best way. You're letting go of anxiety and grabbing hold of faith. You're deciding that your steps are safer in His hands than in your own. And yes, some days will still be hard. The world won't stop testing you. People might still disappoint you. But when you pray first, you walk through those moments with strength that comes from above. You begin to see situations differently. You listen with more patience. You speak with more care. You move through your day with a kind of calm that only God can give. So don't let the day steal your peace before you've even spoken to the one who gives it. Meet with God. Let Him speak first. Let Him cover your heart before anything else touches it. Because when you make prayer your first step, you'll find that every other step becomes lighter. God doesn't just want your problems. He wants your presence. He longs to sit with you before life gets complicated, before the world pulls on your thoughts, before you become weighed down by what others expect. This is the beauty of praying first. It's not just about asking for help. It's about building trust. It's about making space for a relationship, not just a rescue. It's where you stop striving and start resting. Isaiah 26:3 says, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you." That kind of peace doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from trusting deeper. And trust grows when you spend time with God each morning. When you pray first, you don't just invite peace, you invite focus. Your eyes shift from what's wrong to who God is. Your attention moves from your weakness to His strength. Your heart begins to steady itself in His promises. So many people feel lost, not because they're far from God, but because they're too busy to hear him. The day begins, the noise rises, and suddenly, his voice feels quiet. But prayer brings you back. It brings you close. You might think, I'm not good at praying. But prayer isn't a skill, it's a surrender. It's less about getting the words right and more about opening your heart. Even silence can be a prayer when your soul is reaching for him. God never asked for perfect prayers. He asked for real ones. Ones that come from the honest places. The confused, the tired, the hopeful. That's where he meets you. When you make prayer your first response, your heart becomes lighter. The burdens don't disappear, but they stop crushing you. You remember that you don't carry them alone, and that changes everything. Some of the most powerful moments in your life won't happen in public. They'll happen in the stillness of your prayer. That's where healing begins. That's where clarity is found. That's where God speaks the loudest in the quiet. Your day doesn't have to own you. You can own it by starting it with the one who gave it to you. You can rise with confidence because you've already placed it all in God's hands. You've already surrendered the outcome. And once you do that, the fear begins to fall. The stress begins to fade. And your spirit becomes strong again. Because when you pray first, you're not just beginning your day. You're building your life on something unshakable. Sometimes we wake up carrying the weight of yesterday. The things people said, the things we wish we'd done differently, the heaviness we didn't know how to shake off. But prayer helps you begin again. It gently lifts what you were never meant to carry. In the quiet of morning, God is already waiting, not to remind you of your failures, but to remind you of his mercy, not to shame you, but to restore you. His grace is new, not just once in a while, but every single morning. Lamentations 3:22-23 says, "Because of the Lord's great love we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness." That's a promise you can stand on. No matter how messy yesterday was, today is a fresh start in God's eyes. Prayer is how you receive that new beginning. It's how you let go of what you can't change. It's how you stop rehearsing the pain and start remembering the promise. It's how you let the past rest, so your heart can rise. You're not meant to carry yesterday's shame into today's calling. You're not meant to live stuck in regret. God has something new for you, but you have to slow down long enough to receive it. You have to pause long enough to hear him say, "I still choose you." The enemy wants to keep you stuck in cycles of guilt and fear. He wants you distracted and discouraged before your day even begins. But prayer breaks that pattern. It reminds your spirit that the voice of truth always speaks louder than the voice of shame. When you pray first, you're not trying to earn God's love. You're resting in it. You're not trying to fix yourself. You're letting him heal what you cannot. You're stepping out of pressure and into grace. Don't let the mistakes of yesterday stop you from praying today. God's not holding them over your head. He's holding you in his hands. He's not surprised by your weakness. He meets you right in the middle of it. That's the beauty of mercy. Prayer is how you breathe again. It's how your soul gets air. It's how your heart remembers that you are loved even when you feel unworthy. It's where you hear the words, "You're still mine." So come to him first, before the world tries to define you, before the day brings its tests. Let God remind you who you are and whose you are. Because every single morning, his mercy is waiting. And when you begin your day in prayer, you begin it covered in love. There will be days when you don't feel strong, days when your emotions feel heavy, and your thoughts feel tangled. But even then, prayer is still the right place to start. Because you don't have to be strong to show up, you just have to be willing. God never asked you to carry it all by yourself. He never expected you to wake up every day feeling powerful. He simply says, "Come to me." That's where the strength begins. Not in pretending, but in surrendering. Isaiah 40:31 says, "But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not grow weary. They shall walk and not faint." This is the promise for those who come to him first. Renewal, not exhaustion. Strength, not strain. When you choose to begin your day in prayer, even your weakness becomes a place of power. God steps in where you step back. He fills the gaps you can't fix. He gives you the energy you didn't think you had. Prayer isn't about being brave, it's about being honest. It's saying, God, I don't know how to face this day, but I trust you'll go with me. It's choosing faith over fear. Even if your hands are trembling, it's whispering hope when your voice feels small. You don't have to wake up ready. You just have to wake up willing. Willing to let God lead. Willing to admit you need Him. Willing to believe that He hasn't changed even when everything around you has. Some days all you can do is sit in His presence and breathe. That's enough. Because in that stillness, your spirit is being restored. In that silence, He's doing a deeper work than words can express. And as you pray, the things that felt impossible begin to feel smaller. The things that kept you up at night start to lose their grip, because your focus shifts from the weight of the world to the greatness of your God. And that shift changes everything. God doesn't rush you in prayer. He's not timing you. He just wants you close. He wants to remind you that your value isn't based on your performance. It's based on His love. When you start with prayer, the fear may not disappear, but it no longer controls you. You start to see things clearly again. You begin to walk in quiet confidence, because you're not alone. So come just as you are, tired, unsure, or even hurting. God doesn't need you perfect. He just needs you present. Because when you begin in prayer, you step into the kind of strength that holds you together, even when life tries to pull you apart. When you begin your day with prayer, you're creating space for God to move before anything else does. You're making room for clarity before confusion tries to come in. You're opening the door for peace before pressure takes over. And in that quiet space, heaven responds. Prayer is not just about speaking, it's about listening too. It's learning to sit still long enough to hear His whisper. It's letting the Spirit calm your heart and quiet your mind. It's choosing to let God be the loudest voice in your life. Sometimes we expect God to speak with thunder, but He often speaks with a soft nudge, a gentle reminder, a quiet assurance that says, I'm still here. And we hear that best when we slow down to pray. Psalm 46:10 says, Be still and know that I am God. Stillness is not weakness, it's strength under control. It's where fear loses its grip and faith begins to rise. Stillness gives your heart room to breathe. When you don't take time to pray, the day can feel louder and heavier than it really is. You become reactive instead of peaceful. You carry emotions that were never meant to stay. But one moment in God's presence resets everything. You don't have to pray for hours to hear Him. You just need to be available. God honors your quiet effort, even when it feels small. And the more you show up, the more your heart starts to recognize His voice. God's voice won't sound like guilt or fear. It will feel like love, truth, and peace. He reminds you of who you are, not who you used to be. He speaks life over your future, not shame over your past. His voice always leads you into hope. The world is full of distractions, but prayer clears the fog. It centers you. It reminds you that you're not just surviving this life. You're being led through it by a faithful God. It shifts your thoughts from worry to worship. You may not always get the answers you want in prayer, but you will always get the presence of the one who knows best. That presence is what gives you power to move forward. It gives you confidence when you feel unsure. It holds you when life feels unstable. In prayer, you find courage to face what you've been avoiding. You find grace for the people who have hurt you. You find patience for the places that are still healing. And you find strength you didn't know you had. There are moments in prayer when the tears come, not from sadness but from relief. Because finally you're not pretending. You're not performing. You're just being held by your Creator. So make it a habit to come to Him before anything else. Not just on the hard days but on the quiet ones too. Prayer isn't just for crisis. It's for connection. And that connection gives life to everything you do. When you begin with prayer, the day may still bring challenges, but you'll face them differently. You'll carry peace that can't be shaken. You'll walk in wisdom that didn't come from yourself. Because you gave God the first word and He gave you everything you needed. Prayer is where your heart learns to trust again. When life has disappointed you, when people have let you down, God stays the same. In the quiet of prayer, He rebuilds what the world has broken. He reminds you that his love is steady, even when everything else shifts. There are moments when we don't know what to say, and that's okay. God understands even the silence. He sees the thoughts behind the tears. He hears the prayers your lips are too tired to speak. Romans 8:26 says, "The Spirit helps us in our weakness. The Spirit himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words." This means you're never praying alone. Even when you're speechless, heaven is speaking on your behalf. Your weakness is not a barrier, it's an invitation for God to move. Prayer is the safest place for your emotions. You don't have to hide your fear, frustration, or confusion. God isn't afraid of your honesty. He welcomes it because he already knows. In the presence of God, your soul begins to settle. The things that felt too big become smaller. The worries that had control begin to fade. And in their place, peace begins to grow. You may walk into prayer feeling burdened, but you will walk out feeling lighter. Not because everything is fixed, but because you've handed it to someone stronger. The weight is no longer yours to carry alone. That's the gift of surrender. Some people believe prayer needs to be formal or perfect, but God just wants it to be real. Talk to him the way you'd talk to someone who loves you completely. Share the little things, not just the big ones. Let him into every part of your day. The more you pray, the more natural it becomes. It turns into a rhythm, a habit, a lifeline. You begin to look forward to those moments of quiet. And slowly, you realize you were never meant to do this life without him. Prayer is where healing begins. Not always instantly, but deeply. Layer by layer, God starts to mend what was torn. And in time, you'll feel whole again. When you pray first, it's not just for you. It blesses everyone around you. Your peace becomes their peace. Your calm spirit changes the environment. Your faith creates room for others to find hope too. You may not notice the change right away, but others will. They'll see something different in how you speak, how you handle stress, how you love. That's what happens when you spend time with God. He changes you from the inside out, and people can feel it. So never underestimate a simple prayer. It might feel small, but it's powerful. It reaches into the heavens and brings heaven's help into your life. And every time you pray first, you're laying another brick in a foundation that cannot be shaken. When you pray first, you're giving God permission to speak into your decisions. You're saying, "I don't want to move without you." It's an act of humility, a way of saying your wisdom is better than mine. And that simple choice can change the direction of your entire day. Sometimes we make quick choices based on stress, emotion, or pressure, but prayer slows us down just enough to see clearly. It gives you a pause before a mistake. It opens the door for God to redirect what could have gone wrong. Proverbs 3:6 says, "In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight." This means God doesn't just care about your prayers. He cares about your plans. He wants to guide you in big decisions and small ones. And he will if you let him. In prayer, you can ask, "God, should I move forward? Should I speak now or stay silent? Should I wait or should I act?" These questions invite divine guidance into your day. God loves when you involve him in your choices. It shows trust. It shows dependence. It builds closeness between your heart and his. He doesn't always answer right away, but he always responds. Sometimes through peace, sometimes through people, sometimes by closing doors you were never meant to walk through. When you pray first, you avoid many avoidable mistakes. You don't waste time chasing things that weren't meant for you. You stop trying to force open doors that God never built for your path. Instead, you learn to move with grace, not with panic. God is not trying to confuse you, he's trying to lead you. But he leads those who slow down long enough to listen. If you'll pause and pray, you'll notice his direction more clearly. You'll start to feel a peace that either pulls you forward or holds you back. Prayer creates space for better choices. It protects you from impulsive decisions. It helps you say no when pressure says yes. It strengthens your weight when the world demands now. So before you make that call, send that message, accept that offer, or walk through that door, pray. Let God give you clarity. Let him close what needs to stay closed and bless what's meant to open. He knows the future you can't see. Because when you begin with prayer, you're not just reacting, you're responding with wisdom. And that wisdom can save you from heartache, regret, and confusion. It can lead you into blessings that are perfectly timed, blessings you would have missed without him. When you begin your day in prayer, it's not just about protection or peace. It's about alignment. It's about asking God to keep your heart in sync with his. So much of life tries to pull you in different directions, but prayer brings you back to center. It reminds you what really matters. Life is filled with distractions, some loud and some subtle. And if you're not careful, those distractions can lead you away from purpose. But prayer pulls you back before you drift too far. It recenters your focus and helps you live intentionally. Colossians 3:2 says, "Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things." That's what prayer helps you do. It lifts your eyes from the temporary and places them on the eternal. It gives you higher vision. It helps you see beyond the moment. When you start with God, you don't just live by impulse, you live by purpose. Your actions begin to reflect your values. Your decisions are rooted in truth, not emotion, and your heart stays soft even in a hard world. Prayer is where your desires get refined. It's where you say, "God, not just what I want, but what you want." It's where selfishness begins to fade, and surrender begins to grow. It's where God shapes your heart to look more like his. Some prayers are about receiving, but others are about realigning, about letting go of what you were never meant to chase, about making peace with what didn't happen, and learning to trust God's timing again. When you pray first, you're choosing growth over comfort. You're inviting God to challenge you, not just comfort you. You're saying, "Change me if you need to." And that kind of prayer moves mountains, especially the ones inside your heart. Don't be afraid to let God correct you in prayer. His correction never comes from cruelty. It comes from love. He doesn't shame you, he shapes you. And every time you surrender in prayer, you become more like him. Prayer is where pride is replaced with humility, where fear is replaced with faith, where anger is replaced with grace, and where worry is replaced with trust. You might begin your prayer with a heavy heart, but you'll end it with a clear mind. You'll walk away feeling lighter, not because everything changed, but because you did. And when you change, everything around you begins to shift too. That's the quiet power of daily surrender. Even if nothing dramatic happens in the moment, something deep is being built inside you. A steadiness, a wisdom, a deeper connection to the voice of God. So don't rush through it. Stay for a while, let your heart catch up to your spirit. Let God do what only he can do in the stillness. Prayer is not just where you talk to God, it's where you meet him. It's where your heart becomes aware of his presence again. Sometimes we forget how close he really is, but when you pray, that distance disappears. James 4:8 says, "Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you." That's not just a promise, it's an invitation. Every time you take a step toward him, he takes a step closer to you. He never turns away. You don't need to earn his nearness. It's already yours through Jesus. You just have to reach for it. Whisper his name and he's listening. Turn your attention to him and you'll feel him near. Prayer is where God becomes more than an idea. He becomes real again. You start to sense his hand in the little things. You start to notice his guidance in your decisions. And you realize he's been walking with you all along. Even in the chaos, he hasn't left. Even in the silence, he hasn't stopped working. And even when you couldn't feel him, he never let you go. Prayer reawakens you to that truth. Sometimes we think God only shows up in big miracles, but he's also in the quiet moments. He's in the stillness of the morning, in the breath you didn't know you needed, in the peace that has no explanation. When you pray first, your heart becomes more sensitive to his leading. You notice things you once missed. You feel nudges that keep you from harm. You move with more grace and less fear. That awareness becomes your anchor. It steadies you in conversations. It slows your reaction. When someone tests your patience, it reminds you that you're walking with God, not alone. The more you pray, the more real he becomes. Not just on Sunday, but on Tuesday. Not just in crisis, but in the everyday. He becomes your first thought, not your last resort. And that closeness becomes your strength. It gives you quiet confidence. It gives you peace without needing everything to make sense. It gives you joy that can't be taken by circumstances. God is not far. He's just waiting for your attention, not to punish, but to pour out love, not to remind you of your failures, but to remind you of his faithfulness. That's what prayer brings back to your heart. So start your day with him, not because you have to, but because your soul needs it, because he's your safe place, your strength, your peace. And every time you draw near, he draws near in return. There's something sacred about inviting God into the beginning of your day. Before the world demands anything from you, before your mind fills with tasks, you choose to rest in him. You choose to say, God, you are more important than anything waiting for me. That one small choice changes the direction of everything else. It doesn't take long, just a few honest minutes can shift your atmosphere. A whispered prayer, a deep breath in his presence, a simple, I need you today, Lord. Psalm 90:14 says, satisfy us in the morning with your unfailing love, that we may sing for joy and be glad all our days. That's what morning prayer does. It fills your soul before the world drains it. It gives you joy that doesn't depend on how the day goes. It reminds you that God's love is the first gift you receive each morning. You can't always control what the day will bring, but you can choose how you enter it. You can enter it full of worry or full of worship. You can walk in with fear or walk in with faith. Prayer fills your spirit with what the world can't give. Strength when you're tired. Peace when you're stressed. Joy when nothing seems to make sense. When you pray first, you stop chasing everything else to feel okay. You no longer need approval, applause, or achievement to feel whole. You're already grounded in the love of God. And that is enough. Some people start their day scrolling through news, comparing their lives to others, or rushing out the door. But those who stop to be still with God walk differently. They carry a calm the world can't explain. They carry the presence of someone greater. You may feel like you don't have time to pray, but when you make time, you'll see how much time it saves you. You'll make better choices. You'll waste less energy on worry. God knows everything ahead of you today. He knows what will surprise you, what will test you, and what will bless you. Why not talk to him first? Why not let the one who sees it all prepare your heart? Prayer is not about earning points with God. It's about walking with him through every hour. It's about staying close so you don't have to walk blind. It's about being held when the day gets too heavy. So before you do anything else, pause and pray. Invite God to lead you. Let his presence settle your spirit, and step into your day already covered in grace. There is no part of your life too small for prayer. God cares about every detail, your worries, your schedule, even your emotions. He doesn't just want to be part of your Sunday. He wants to be part of your Monday morning too. And it starts when you invite him in first. Sometimes we believe the lie that we should only pray about big things. But prayer is not about the size of the problem. It's about the closeness of your God. If it matters to you, it matters to him. He's a father who loves every part of your heart. 1 Peter 5:7 says, cast all your anxiety on him, because he cares for you. Not just some of it, all of it. The things that keep you up at night, the things you don't even talk about. When you pray first, you're learning to cast the weight off before it settles on you. You're saying, God, this is too much for me, but it's not too much for you. And he receives it gently. He carries what you were never meant to hold. There's freedom in prayer, not just because you're heard, but because you're held. You don't have to figure everything out. You don't have to fix yourself before coming. You just come as you are. And in that space, God meets you, not with judgment, but with kindness. Not with pressure, but with peace. Not with rejection, but with welcome arms. Prayer is a daily reminder that you are not walking through life alone. You're not parenting alone. You're not fighting that illness alone. You're not making decisions alone. Everything that feels overwhelming becomes lighter in his presence. Every burden becomes bearable when carried together with him. He strengthens what's weak in you. He gives rest to what's worn out. You might not see the answers right away, but your spirit will feel the difference. You'll move through your day steadier. You'll speak with more grace. You'll live with deeper trust. Prayer is not a break from life. It's the strength for it. It's how you catch your breath when life moves fast. It's how you stand still when everything else rushes forward. And it's how you remember that God is always with you. So let this be your rhythm, not just once in a while, but every day. Let prayer be your first response, not your final resort. Let it be your morning breath, your quiet strength, your sacred pause, because every part of your life is safer when it begins with Him. There will be times when you don't feel like praying, times when your heart is tired and your thoughts are heavy. But those are the moments when prayer matters the most, because even a quiet whisper in faith can move heaven. God isn't looking for perfect prayers, He's looking for honest ones. He meets you in the middle of your weariness. He listens when all you can say is, "Lord, help me." And that cry is enough. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." He doesn't wait until you've pulled yourself together. He draws near when you fall apart. That's how deep His love goes. Prayer is not just a place of power, it's a place of healing. It's where tears are welcome and silence is safe. It's where wounds are seen without shame, and where your soul is allowed to rest. You don't have to impress God with strength you don't have. You don't have to explain what you can't put into words. He knows, and He understands more than you think. Sometimes, sitting quietly in His presence says more than 1,000 words. Just being with Him brings peace. Just breathing and believing He's near begins to change your heart. That's how gentle prayer can be. And when you make prayer your first habit, even on the hard days, your heart begins to grow stronger. Not because the pain disappears, but because you learn that pain doesn't have to push you away from God. It can bring you closer, closer than you've ever been. There's something beautiful about praying through the pain. It becomes your lifeline, your anchor, your source of strength. You don't pretend you're okay, you pray while you're not. And in doing so, you discover a God who never leaves. You may think your prayers are small, but they are precious to God. Each one is heard, each one matters, and each one reaches the heart of heaven. So whether you feel strong or weak, focused or distracted, keep praying. Even when it's messy, even when it's quiet, even when all you can do is show up. God is not asking for perfection. He's asking for presence. Just come to Him and let your soul rest in the one who loves you most. Because when you pray first, especially when it's hard, you find a peace that carries you through the storm, not around it. Prayer gives you room to breathe again. In a world that moves fast, pulls hard, and demands constantly, prayer invites you to slow down. It reminds you that you don't have to live in a rush. You are allowed to rest in God's presence before you run into the day. When you pray first, you're not wasting time, you're investing it. You're choosing to give the best of yourself to the one who gave you the day. In the first place, you're letting Him fill what's empty and refill what's been poured out. Isaiah 30:15 says, "In quietness and trust is your strength." Real strength doesn't always look like doing more. Sometimes it looks like sitting still with God. Sometimes it looks like trusting instead of trying. And sometimes it looks like praying when you'd rather perform. The world will keep telling you to hurry, achieve, and hustle. But God says, "Come away with me." He says, "Let me give you strength that doesn't run out. Let me remind you that you are already enough in my eye." Prayer realigns your priorities. It makes space for what truly matters. It clears the noise so your spirit can hear truth. It softens the edges that life has hardened. Sometimes all you need is 5 minutes of stillness to face the next 10 hours of motion. Just 5 minutes to say, "God, I give this to you. I trust your timing more than mine. I'm choosing faith over fear today." The peace that comes from prayer is not surface level. It goes deep. It doesn't just calm your mind, it settles your soul. It wraps around your heart like a blanket, and it gives you strength that outlasts the storm. Even if your circumstances don't change after you pray, you will. You'll think clearer, you'll speak gentler, you'll walk taller, knowing God walks with you. There is nothing weak about needing God. There is nothing small about starting with prayer. It's one of the most powerful things you can do, because it invites the Creator of the universe into your ordinary moments. God doesn't expect you to handle life alone. He designed you for connection with Him first. That connection is kept alive through prayer, through consistent, honest conversation with your Father. So make it your rhythm, not just when you're struggling, but every day. Let prayer be how you begin, how you breathe, how you build your day, because everything changes when you start with Him. When you pray first, you're reminding your soul who's in charge. Not your stress, not your schedule, but the God who holds your life in His hands. Prayer isn't just a habit, it's a declaration. It says, before I do anything else, I choose to trust God first. It says I'm not going to carry this day alone. And it says I believe peace is possible, no matter what happens next. Philippians 4:6-7 says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Prayer doesn't just bring peace, it builds a wall of protection around your heart. It's like armor for your mind and soul. That means you can face pressure without panic. You can walk into challenges without fear. Not because they're easy, but because you've already surrendered them in prayer. You've already laid them at His feet. Sometimes you'll feel the difference immediately. Other times you'll notice later that the peace never left you. It stayed steady in the background, because you started the day in the presence of peace Himself. There will always be reasons to worry, but prayer gives you a reason to hope. It lifts your focus from problems to promises. It helps you see your life from God's point of view. You don't have to fake it when you pray. You don't have to hide what's hurting. Bring it all. God already sees, and He's not afraid of your honesty. He wants the real you, not the polished version, not the edited version, just the you that woke up today needing help. The you that's trying, hoping, waiting. Prayer is where that version of you is embraced, not rejected, where your doubts are answered with grace, where your tears are seen and not ignored, where your mess is met with mercy. So breathe deeply before you begin the day. Let prayer be your foundation. Let it be the place where peace meets preparation. Let it be the anchor before the waves come. Because when you pray first, you're not walking blindly into the day. You're walking with divine direction. You're walking covered. You're walking free. And that makes all the difference. The more you choose to pray first, the more your life begins to shift. Not always in the obvious ways, but deep inside. Your responses become calmer. Your confidence becomes stronger. Prayer doesn't mean everything will go smoothly, but it means you'll be steady, even when things don't. It prepares your heart for whatever comes. It helps you walk into meetings, conversations, and decisions with clarity. It puts God's wisdom ahead of your own. Psalm 116:8 says, I keep my eyes always on the Lord. With Him at my right hand, I will not be shaken. That's what prayer does. It keeps your eyes focused on God, not the chaos. Focused on truth, not fear. You'll still face difficult people, but you'll respond with peace. You'll still have challenges, but you'll carry strength, because prayer becomes your source, not just your backup. It becomes your lifestyle, not your emergency plan. You don't wait until you're overwhelmed to pray. You pray so you won't get overwhelmed. You don't wait until you're empty. You pray to stay full. You build a habit that keeps your heart grounded. That habit builds spiritual muscle. Prayer is how you walk in step with God all day long. It starts in the morning, but it doesn't stop there. It continues in your thoughts, in your breath, in your decisions. You stay connected, not just in the big things, but in the small ones too. Some people may not understand your peace. They'll wonder how you stay calm. But you'll know it's not you, it's the result of time spent with your Father. Time that shaped your heart before the day even began. And over time you'll see the fruit. You'll make better choices. You'll speak more gently. You'll carry a presence that changes room. That's what happens when you consistently pray first. You carry something from heaven into your daily life. And the people around you feel it. They may not say it, but they'll see it. So keep praying, even when it feels quiet. Keep praying, even when it feels ordinary. Every morning you start with God is a victory. Every time you choose Him first, something sacred is happening inside you. Because when you pray first, you don't just survive your days, you walk through them with purpose, protection, and peace. Prayer isn't always loud or emotional. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, and still. And yet, even in the quiet, something powerful happens. Your soul leans in. Your heart learns to listen. The world is full of noise, but prayer helps you tune in to what matters most. It gives you space to hear God's voice again, not just in the big moments, but in the ordinary ones too. He speaks in the stillness. John 10:27 says, "My sheep listen to my voice, I know them, and they follow me." When you pray first, you train your ears to recognize His voice. Over time, it becomes familiar, and it leads you with peace. God will guide you in ways that logic can't. He'll give you wisdom that books don't teach. He'll warn you gently, confirm things quietly, and nudge you lovingly. That's what happens when you stay close through prayer. It doesn't mean you'll always feel something dramatic. Some days prayer will feel simple, maybe even ordinary, but consistency builds connection, and that connection will carry you farther than feelings ever could. There will be days you don't feel like praying, but those are the days you need it most. Just showing up opens the door for God to work. He honors the effort, not just the emotion. He meets you where you are. Prayer is where real maturity is built. Not in spiritual hype, but in honest moments. It's where you choose presence over pressure, where you value God more than noise. The more you pray, the more you recognize His peace and protect it. You stop letting every opinion shake you. You stop needing every answer immediately. You trust that the one who hears you is still working. You begin to walk lighter, speak softer, and rest deeper. You begin to live more aware of His presence in every step. That's not just the result of prayer, that's the reward. That's what a surrendered life starts to look like. And even if others don't notice, God does. He sees you making room for Him. He sees you choosing time with Him over everything else, and He will honor it in ways you can't yet see. So keep returning to that quiet place. Keep choosing to pray first. That stillness is doing more than you realize. It's shaping the person you're becoming. When you make prayer your first priority, it begins to change how you see everything. Your perspective gets clearer. What once felt urgent becomes quiet, and what once felt confusing becomes calm. You realize not every battle is worth fighting. Not every comment needs a response. Not every open door is your assignment. Prayer gives you the wisdom to know the difference. James 1:5 says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, and it will be given to you." That's what prayer offers, not just comfort, but direction. You don't have to figure it out alone. God will guide you if you ask. When you begin in prayer, you're less likely to be led by emotion. You respond instead of react. You pause when needed, and move only when there's peace. That's what it means to walk in step with the Spirit. Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes it's wait. And sometimes it's a gentle no that protects you more than you know. But when you pray, you're trusting God knows what's best. Even when you don't understand. Prayer builds that kind of trust, slowly. Day by day, choice by choice. The more you pray, the more confident you become in God's voice. You start to recognize when He's speaking and when He's asking you to be still. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. Because God's plan is always better, even when it's slower. He sees what you can't see yet, and He's not in a rush to bless you. He's preparing you to hold the blessing well. Prayer isn't just for peace, it's for preparation. It gets your heart ready for what's ahead. It makes sure your motives are pure. It keeps your confidence rooted in Him, not in results. When you live a life led by prayer, you stop chasing everything. You stop striving to prove yourself. You stop running toward what looks good but isn't from God. Instead, you wait and you walk when He says go. And when He does say go, you move with peace. You move with grace. You move with clarity. Because prayer already prepared the way. So keep listening. Keep waiting. Keep trusting. God never wastes the prayers you pray first. Prayer is where your relationship with God becomes real. not just religious. It's not about performing, it's about connecting. Not about sounding holy, but being honest. It's where you stop pretending and start receiving. Some days you'll come to God with strength, other days with nothing but a quiet breath. But every day He welcomes you the same. He loves when you choose Him first. Hebrews 4:16 says, "Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need." Prayer gives you access to that throne, not just when you feel worthy, but especially when you don't. You can come with your guilt and leave with grace. You can come unsure and leave with peace. You can come weak and walk away strong. That's what happens when you meet with Him. The enemy wants you to believe you're too far gone, that God is tired of hearing from you, that your prayers are too small or too late. But prayer proves the enemy wrong every time. Every time you pray, you silence shame. You reject fear. You reach for mercy. And you receive what can't be earned, only accept. God isn't looking at your performance, He's looking at your heart. And when you offer Him even the smallest piece of it, He draws near. He speaks love over your regrets. He brings healing where you once felt broken. Prayer is where your spirit starts to breathe again, where joy returns, where hope is reborn, and where faith grows even in the waiting. You don't have to feel spiritual to pray. You just have to believe He hears you. That's faith, and that faith moves mountain. So don't hold back. Don't wait for a better moment. Come to Him early. Come to Him now. Come to Him first. His arms are always open and His voice is always kind. Because every time you choose to pray first, you're choosing relationship over religion. You're choosing intimacy over image. You're choosing a living God over lifeless routine. And He honors that choice every time. You've learned now, prayer isn't just something you do, it's who you are becoming. A person who begins in peace. A heart that turns to God before turning to the world. A soul that knows the power of starting with Him. The world may never slow down, but you can. You can build your life on stillness before motion. You can build your strength from the inside out. And you can let prayer lead the way. Every morning is a new chance. A fresh beginning to say, God, here I am again. Not perfect, but present. Psalm 143:8 says, "Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you." That's what this has all been about. Trust. Choosing to trust Him first. You could scroll, rush, or plan, but instead you've chosen to pray. You've chosen to breathe before you build, to rest before you run, and that changes everything. Every time you choose to begin with God, you grow stronger, even if you don't feel it. Your roots go deeper. Your heart grows quieter. Your steps become more confident. You carry peace into rooms that don't have any. You carry grace into conversations that need it. You carry light into places that feel heavy. And you do it because you prayed for. Prayer isn't just what you do. It becomes the way you live. You become more aware of God in every moment. You begin to notice His hand in your smallest details. And His voice becomes your safest place. You won't always feel dramatic change, but you will feel divine presence. You'll walk lighter. You'll speak slower. You'll love deeper. Let this stay with you, not just for a season, but for a lifetime. Let prayer be the rhythm that steadies your soul. Let God be the first one you run to, and the last one you thank at night. And watch what He builds from your surrender. Because a life that starts with God is a life that stays with Him. A heart that seeks Him early will never walk empty. A soul that depends on Him will never be forsaken. And a person who prays first will never walk alone.